Hi, I'm Sloan, better known as, but I'm also the First Lady of Luke Church, and my husband is Timothy W. Sloan, Senior Pastor. And he's been in ministry for over 30 years. We've been together nearly 30 years and 23 years at our church. And so I have watched what this season means. What people think is just another Sunday. Easter is the Super Bowl when it comes to church services and seasons. So today I want to talk to you from the doctor standpoint, but also as the lady, of the toll that it takes to be a preacher during this season, but in general, in any season. You have to remember there's a lot of wear and tear on the bodies, the mind, and the soul of ministers, male or female. And so today, let's talk about a few of those things. Okay, so when preachers get ready for the sermonic moment of mounting the pulpit, if you will, specifically black preachers, black preaching is on a whole nother level. That's probably a talk in itself for a later time. But what you have to realize is the pregame, if you will, the warm up for the mind, the heart, and the soul. And for them, it's a lead in of probably fasting and praying, some spiritual warfare that goes into it as well. On top of all the other distractions you have to deal with as far as the nuances of running a church and being the executive of that church, from money, of course, to the logistics of what any Sunday morning takes, but also an Easter Sunday morning. Like this Easter, we have 5 services, and three are at our main campus, and then 2 are at another site because we are trying to accommodate the people. And so with that, the mindset that has to go in with ministers that, again, this is the Super Bowl. This is like, you got to hit the home run, And so the load in is more than just showing up on a Sunday morning. Preaching is more than just showing up on Sunday morning. Preaching is more than just showing up on Sunday morning. A lot of people think, oh, it's just, 3 points and a poem and maybe a story, but there is so much more to what goes into this. And so the prep time before includes, prayer, again, spiritual warfare, but also studying, like study to show thyself approved, right? My husband specifically does a lot of research and even has an organization that helps with some of his background research to make sure what he's bringing to the people is what God would be pleased with. And so all of that on top of cutting and editing and cutting some more and getting to the point where it's a timed and very succinct and knowing that the delivery is going to be well. So there are various types of preachers that some may just mount the pulpit. Wouldn't advise that. There's others that probably spend, and I'm going to say it, more time on their outfits than their actual sermon prep. Ooh, it's going to get rough today, but nonetheless, getting to the point where you have your thesis and your, what does he call it? Antithesis? Yes, that's the word, that you can exegete the sermon and the sermonic moment, all of those things. I know I probably killed those words, but that's why he's the expert, not me in that field. So the emotional, spiritual, and the prep are huge in the pregame. But some of the physical things that go into it that you guys forget about. Let's talk about the voice. So number one, we've already talked about the mindset. He's having to prep his mind. He or she is prepping their mind to be in this moment, to deliver one of the ultimate sermons to the maximum number of people, usually on Easter, that will be at a church or a facility. But the voice is also something you have to worry about. And so if you have not seen an ear, nose, and throat specialist to look at your vocal cords, a speech therapist to help with the phonetics and the enunciation on top of delivery of tone, all of that goes into it on top of Your AV people, whoever is dealing with sound, you'll hear the preacher tap it or see him tap at his ear and point to a speaker or whatnot. Those are things that means he may be straining. And so laryngitis is real, definitely. And you want to make sure that you're taking care of your voice. And so with that voice strain from day in to day out to weekly sermons to multiple sermons in a year until years of sermons and using your voice. And not just like using your voice like regular talk. We're talking like the undulation of a black sermon on top of the hooping, the classic, what black churches are known for, the African American culture, on top of some of the hollering and yelling, because that is the release as well. But for the most part, those are things that are not addressed. And so are you warming up your voice? Are you drinking something warm, but not using things that are citrus that may strip your vocal cords or hurt your throat? As well as nourishing it with things like zinc and honey and turmeric or ginger or, these kind of things. And so you have to really speak to each one of those and get back to taking care of your voice. The next thing we talk about is the physical output. And so a lot of people don't realize that it's like a marathon, but every Sunday is like a sprint. And so think about the muscles and the joints and literally the physical toll. It is like a high intensity training session, if you will, for each service. And so if you're a minister that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know how many services you may have, but the average for, if you're like sort of a low-key preacher, maybe not gonna do too much moving, you're gonna stay pretty much at the pulpit only, then you can possibly exert 200 to 300 calories, right, on one sermon. And then if you're sort of a moderate style preacher, like you may get a little loose every now and then, but that is between a 500 to 700 calories per service. Now, if you are the type of minister, preacher that's going to tear up the pulpit and be very extra over the top because that is how you deliver your sermon, then this is the 1,200 up to 2,000 calorie sermon. And multiply that times 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, that kind of thing. So this is where the post-sermon or sermonic moment burnout happens. And so the physical toll, the sweating, you remember they're usually in a suit or nicely dressed, and there may be layers and there may be a robe. All of that comes into play. And replenishing that includes, not lots and lots of water, but also things that are not necessarily Gatorade or these sports drinks that have a lot of sugar. So if anything that has like an IV hydration or get an actual IV, those are the things that are really going to help replenish the depletion of the body. And with that, post-sermonic moment becomes the shutdown. And what a lot of people don't see after Sunday morning service and that minister or preacher has greeted everyone and shaken hands and kissed babies and prayed for somebody's mama that don't even go to the church or whatever. They come home and they crash. And it's like a letdown, if you will. And in that moment, their bodies literally have to regroup. And so most ministers will talk about sleeping for, long extended periods of time on top of waking up, feeling almost hungover, if you will, post-sermon. So it takes a lot out of their bodies, as well as to replenish and start over again for the next week. It takes a lot. Okay, so, after we have done the pre-game warm-up, you have done the show where you may have danced and run and shouted and hooped and hollered and jumped and, all these things, and then you go home to recover. There's also the spiritual and emotional recovery period. And so this is the phase where they have to replenish themselves to be able to do this all over again the next week. And that is a week-long process for most ministers and that have already planned out their year, knowing what's coming, but also how each week has to be catered differently. So I would definitely say the crash, the regroup, being to the point where some of them are so tired that they actually have insomnia and they can't sleep. But I would advise, as a doctor, as a first lady, the replenishing starts spiritually. And I've watched my husband do his meditation prayer time. He journals and spends, morning sessions with God because that's his quiet time to replenish. And then secondly, I would say, make sure that you're, working out, yes, but doing things that are going to nurture the body, such as a massage, a facial, taking quiet time, taking time away sometimes, but building that in so that you're not so depleted and broken that you get burnt out, because preacher burnout is also very real. Another talk, another day. So I hope this helps to enlighten people, if you will, what it takes to really be a preacher, specifically in this season of the Super Bowl of all seasons, Easter. And so pray for your pastor. Cover the man or woman of God that is covering you. And it takes a lot and it takes a toll to be a Black preacher in today's society, and being able to deliver it and then to bounce back and do it all over again. Hope this helps. Have a great day. Happy Easter.